In the toughest moments of an economic downturn, no one can predict which groups will face the greatest risk: becoming homeless. If the United States slips into a recession, a significant portion of the population will struggle daily, scrambling for shelter and survival. Join us as we explore the groups most vulnerable to this fate, those who, in an economic crisis, could lose everything in the blink of an eye. From gig workers to single-parent families and retirees living on pensions, each group carries unique fears and heartbreaking statistics behind their stories. Are you ready to confront these painful numbers and narratives? Here are the top 10 groups at risk of falling into this grim reality. Let's hope you're not among them. Number 1. Low-income renters in major cities. As the U.S. economy braces for a potential recession, one of the most vulnerable groups at risk of homelessness is low-income renters in major cities. These individuals are already grappling with skyrocketing living costs, particularly rent. In cities like New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, rental prices have surged in recent years, leaving many in a precarious state. According to Zillow's reports, average rent prices in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles have climbed nearly 40% over the past 5 years. In San Francisco, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment reached $3,000 per month in 2022, up from about $2,200 5 years earlier. Los Angeles isn't far behind, with rents hitting $2,500 per month. These figures highlight the uncontrollable rise in housing costs, making it nearly impossible for low-income residents to maintain stability. With limited earnings, these renters, often manual laborers, service workers, or retail staff, live paycheck to paycheck. Despite being employed, their income barely covers daily expenses, leaving little room for savings or emergency funds. In a recession, unstable jobs or reduced hours could strip away their ability to pay rent. A single disruption, like a layoff or fewer shifts, can push them toward eviction. Compounding the issue is the scarcity of affordable housing programs. While initiatives like Section 8 and rental assistance exist, they're often inaccessible due to complex requirements and long wait lists. According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, roughly 7 million low-income U.S. households can't afford housing costs, thrusting them into precarious living conditions. In a recession, as jobs grow scarce and living costs keep climbing, low-income renters in major cities could be the first casualties of the housing crisis. Without stronger government intervention, many face the grim prospect of losing their homes and becoming homeless with nowhere to turn. 2. Seniors living on pensions and Social Security. Imagine someone who's worked their entire life contributing to society, now relying on a meager pension and Social Security in their later years. The numbers may sound secure, but the reality is grim, especially as the economy teeters on the edge of recession. According to the Public Policy Institute, about 15% of Americans over 65 live below the poverty line, with many depending solely on pensions and Social Security, which barely cover basic needs. Picture an elderly person after a lifetime of labor, unable to support themselves, forced to cut daily expenses just to survive. Social Security, while critical, meets only about 40% of a person's minimum living needs. With housing and healthcare costs soaring, those reliant on these funds struggle to maintain stability. In major cities, rent has risen over 20% in recent years. If you think housing costs are a distant issue, consider this. Many seniors face the agonizing choice between paying rent and buying medications or treating illnesses. Too often, rent goes unpaid, putting them at risk of losing their homes. The situation grows harsher as seniors can't keep up with healthcare inflation. While Medicare offers some relief, the costs of medications and long-term care remain a crushing burden. They're forced to cut back on basic living conditions to save money, sometimes sacrificing essentials for survival. Even more troubling, most seniors lack financial safety nets. A National Institute on Retirement Security report states over 40% of Americans have no retirement savings. This means they'll rely on limited benefits as life grows tougher. In a recession, seniors living on pensions and Social Security will be among the most vulnerable. They face not only the risk of losing their homes, but also the struggle to manage uncontrollable costs. This is the harsh reality behind the numbers. Those who built this nation are now facing some of the greatest threats in their lives. 3. Non-contract workers, gig workers, freelancers. In a society increasingly embracing flexible work models, non-contract workers, gig workers, and freelancers face severe challenges, especially as the economy slides toward recession. These individuals lack stable jobs, long-term contracts, or protections like health insurance, paid leave, or pensions. They rely entirely on freelance gigs through apps or short-term contracts, making them highly vulnerable in economic downturns. The primary reason they're at risk of homelessness during a recession is income instability. One week, they might earn decent money driving for ride-sharing services, delivering food, or working on graphic design or writing gigs. The next, they may struggle to find enough work to cover basic living costs, especially rent. This creates a vicious cycle, making saving or building financial reserves nearly impossible. The situation worsens as gig platforms like Uber, Lyft, or other services cut costs, offer fewer jobs, or lower pay rates, leaving incomes erratic. In a recession, when job opportunities shrink and companies slash budgets, non-contract workers are often left behind, lacking the safeguards of long-term contracts or basic benefits. Moreover, these workers don't qualify for unemployment benefits or social safety nets available to long-term employees. Without savings, contractual protections, or aid during tough times, they're at high risk of homelessness, especially if a recession wipes out their primary income source. Financial insecurity, lack of social benefits, and job instability make this group one of the most vulnerable in a faltering economy. As gig services wane and work dries up, they face the stark possibility of becoming homeless, unable to sustain a stable life. 4. Veterans without insurance and consistent support. Veterans have served their country under grueling conditions, but upon returning, they don't always receive the care and support they deserve. Those without health insurance or comprehensive benefits face severe financial, health, and stability challenges. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, about 37,000 veterans are homeless, and 1 in 4 struggles to maintain stable housing. A key reason is the lack of adequate insurance and healthcare programs. While the VA offers healthcare services, not all veterans qualify or can access them. A National Coalition for Homeless Veterans report states that roughly 1/3 of homeless veterans don't qualify for full VA medical services. Moreover, veterans without insurance or financial support often live precariously, with low or unstable incomes. Some grapple with war-related illnesses or mental health issues like PTSD, making it harder to hold jobs or maintain stability. The absence of health insurance and accessible care is a critical factor in their inability to secure a stable life. Alarmingly, the American Veterans Research Institute notes that 1 in 3 homeless veterans lives on the streets without any support from social programs. In a recession, they're among the first to hit rock bottom, losing homes and facing severe health and mental risks. Without improved policies to protect and support veterans, this group risks falling into homelessness, left without a lifeline despite their sacrifices for the nation. 5. People with disabilities on SSI/SSDI. Per the National Disability Institute, about 8.1 million Americans rely on SSI, yet many can't maintain stability on these funds alone. In 2023, the average SSI payment for a disabled individual was roughly $794 per month, far too little to cover basics like rent, food, healthcare, and other expenses. Meanwhile, living costs, especially rent in major cities, have soared in recent years. The situation is dire for those with disabilities who often face medical costs tied to their conditions. A report from the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund reveals that 45% of disabled individuals live in households below the poverty line. Healthcare and medication expenses far exceed what their benefits can cover. Government support shortages exacerbate the issue. While assistance programs exist, they fall short of meeting rising needs, especially during a recession when living costs climb. Fixed SSI/SSDI payments don't adjust quickly to market price surges, leaving recipients unable to afford safe living conditions. Without significant improvements in social safety nets and disability care policies, this group faces a high risk of homelessness. A recession, with job cuts and strained aid programs, could push them into precarious situations with nowhere to turn. The U.S. Census Bureau reports that 28% of disabled individuals are at high risk of homelessness, a figure likely to rise in a recession without timely policy interventions. For those reliant on meager SSI/SSDI payments, covering basic costs in an increasingly harsh economic climate is a losing battle. In a society where people with disabilities already grapple with financial and health struggles, homelessness isn't a distant threat, it's a looming reality. 6. Single-parent families with young children. Imagine rushing from work to pick up your kids from school, then scrambling to shop, cook, bathe them, and help with homework, all on a single income. No partner to share the load, no grandparents nearby, and virtually no savings for emergencies. This is the reality for millions of single-parent families in the U.S., balancing a grueling schedule on a razor-thin budget. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 11 million single-parent households live in the U.S., with over 80% led by women. Many work in service industries hit hard during recessions, cashiers, servers, or nursing aides. As the economy contracts, jobs dwindle and incomes shrink, but the costs of raising children never ease. The bigger issue is the flawed welfare system for single-parent families. A Center on Budget and Policy Priorities study shows only 1 in 5 eligible families receives federal housing assistance. Meanwhile, the National Low-Income Housing Coalition reports that to afford a 2-bedroom apartment at market rates, a single mother needs to earn at least $25 per hour, double the federal minimum wage. This imbalance leaves many families in a job-or-nothing bind. Keep working, keep the home, lose the job, lose everything. In a recession, this isn't hypothetical. Single-parent families, striving daily to hold their lives together, teeter on the edge of a homelessness crisis, not from laziness, but because they're playing an unfair game. 7. Factory workers in agricultural industrial states. Not every part of America revolves around big cities. Deep in states like Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Iowa, millions of factory workers keep the nation's production wheels turning. But in a recession, they're often the first to feel the economic storm. Manufacturing jobs in industrial and agricultural states, already fragile post-pandemic, are now shakier amid global supply chain disruptions, falling consumer demand, and companies tightening belts. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports over 190,000 manufacturing jobs were cut in 2023 alone, mostly in the Midwest and agricultural regions. For factory workers living on hourly wages, losing just a few shifts a week can spiral into debt and an inability to pay rent. The problem deepens in small factory towns with few alternatives. When a plant closes, entire communities face crisis. There are no new jobs, no timely retraining programs, and no affordable housing to cushion the blow. A Pew Research Center report notes poverty rates in rural U.S. counties range from 15% to 20%, above the national average. Unlike urban residents, workers in agricultural industrial areas can't easily move elsewhere. Their families, communities, and lives are rooted in their hometowns. But when factories shut down and government aid lags, they risk being left behind, losing not just jobs, but homes. The question looms: in a nation called the land of opportunity, do these hardworking workers have a chance to stand firm when the economy shakes? Or will they become a forgotten piece of the national recession puzzle? 8. Student loan borrowers without stable jobs. They're the generation expected to shape America's future, college graduates carrying degrees and crushing student loan debt. But in a recession, that diploma is no longer a golden ticket. Instead, it's a looming debt burden, fueling financial instability and, for many, the risk of homelessness just as their adult lives begin. According to the U.S. Department of Education, over 43 million Americans hold student loan debt, totaling more than $1.6 trillion, surpassing national credit card debt. Nearly 17 million of these are recent graduates from the past 5 years, many still jobless or working underpaid, unrelated jobs. A Center for American Progress report reveals that 30% of graduates from 2020 onward lack stable employment. They scrape by, relying on friends, family, or cramped rentals, while facing monthly loan repayments. In a recession, job prospects dim further, and millions of young adults could be unable to repay loans, making homelessness a real threat. Unlike past generations, today's graduates often leave school with $30,000 to $40,000 in debt. With interest rates of 5 to 7%, deferring payments only balloons the balance, while income growth remains elusive. In costly cities, many choose between loan payments and rent. Worse, financial relief programs, like loan deferrals or temporary interest waivers, expired by late 2023. Since 2024, repayments have resumed for millions, despite unstable job prospects. This is pushing a significant portion of young Americans, especially Black and Latino borrowers, into housing crises. This group is unique. not poor in the traditional sense, but trapped by massive education costs, an unpredictable job market, and a society with fewer ladders to climb. Without changes to education finance policies, a looming recession could turn these knowledge bearers into the homeless. 9. Retail and service workers facing layoffs. The layoffs in retail and service industries didn't wait for a recession, they've been simmering for years. These are the workers behind cash registers, brewing coffee, serving meals, or folding clothes in stores, jobs that seem indispensable but are the first to vanish when the economy falters. Per the U.S. Department of Labor, over 150,000 retail jobs were cut in 2023 alone, a number projected to climb sharply if a recession hits. Family Dollar shuttered over 1,000 stores. Walgreens laid off thousands. Even giants like Walmart and Amazon have slashed staff, especially in urban areas. The reason is clear. As consumers tighten budgets, they cut non-essential spending, dining out less, shopping sparingly, crushing retail and service revenues. Most workers in these sectors are hourly, without long-term contracts or adequate unemployment benefits, so losing a few shifts a week can make rent unpayable. Worse, these are among the lowest-paid workers in the U.S. economy, earning $12 to $16 per hour on average. A Brookings study shows 60% of these workers have less than $500 in emergency savings, meaning a single month of reduced hours can push them toward losing their homes. In states like Nevada, Florida, and Texas, where services dominate local economies, homelessness among these workers is a looming crisis. Las Vegas reported over 14,000 homeless individuals in early 2024, many from the shrinking hospitality and tourism sectors. This is the dark side of an industry once seen as a lifeline for millions of low-skill workers. In a recession, as consumers buy less and businesses cut costs, those at the bottom of the service supply chain are the first pushed out and the last invited back. 10. Legal immigrants without stable green cards. You might see them anywhere, on construction sites, in the kitchens of local restaurants, or caring for the elderly in nursing homes. They are legal immigrants permitted to live and work in the U.S., but without green cards, living in a state of half legal, half precarious. Unlike U.S. citizens or green card holders, this group lacks full access to social safety nets. They're ineligible for unemployment benefits, government health care, or housing assistance. In stable times, they can grind through work, send money home, and hold on to hopes of permanent residency. But in a recession, they're among the first to fall through the cracks. According to the Pew Research Center, the U.S. is home to about 10.5 million non-citizen immigrants, with nearly 2 million holding legal visas but no green cards, mostly international students, H-1B workers, family-sponsored applicants, or asylum seekers awaiting approval. Their biggest barrier isn't just paperwork, but instability. Losing a job can invalidate a work visa within weeks, forcing them to leave the U.S. or stay illegally, barred from legal housing or employment. In a shrinking economy where businesses cut jobs and halt contract renewals, this scenario is all too likely. The story doesn't end with losing a home. Many legal immigrants face a triple threat: no income, no housing, and no legal right to stay. A National Alliance to End Homelessness report notes that immigrants make up 20% of homeless cases in cities like Los Angeles and Houston, despite being a small fraction of the population. In a crisis, those often called the silent backbone of America are the most likely to be left behind. Without targeted policies to protect them, the lives they've sacrificed their youth to build in a foreign land could crumble with a single layoff notice. Each group we've explored isn't just a statistic in a report, they're people living among us with hopes, fears, and quintessentially American dreams. As a potential economic recession looms, preparation isn't just personal, it's about how society views and responds to its most vulnerable. A sustainable economy cannot thrive if too many are left behind. This video's content is based on public data, independent research, and social observations, aimed at analysis and education. The views expressed do not represent any organization, government, or individual, nor are they intended to incite, blame, or discriminate. We encourage viewers to explore further and form their own perspectives from diverse sources. If this topic resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to raise awareness about the hidden truths behind America's brightly lit streets. Feel free to comment with your own stories or suggestions for future content.